Welcome to the CrossFit Canada podcast, telling the stories of Canadian affiliate owners and coaches. And as we continue to roll this thing out to the tens of people listening, we have another one of our fabulous CrossFit seminar staff and affiliate owner, Jackie Clark. Now, Jackie, how we kick this off is no different than a drop-in coming into your affiliate. We're going to do question of the day.
Okay.
Question of the day. So what you got to do is the hard part is introducing yourself, your affiliate. And then for question of the day, let's go most recent book that's had an impact on you. Rather than be like the best book, but like the one that just comes to mind as most recently.
Okay. Well, my name is Jackie Clark. And my answer to that is I wish I could rhyme a quick book off, to be honest. I'm like at the very tail end of completing my master's right now in human kinetics and recreation. So my most recent book that's had the most impact on me is health promotion in Canada.
Okay.
As dry as that sounds.
Textbook? Yeah. I like it. Hey,
as dry as that sounds, it's pertinent, it's applicable, and it's real life. So that's it.
What's something that you kind of pulled from it where you're like, like something that just really made you go,
Well, interesting. Most recently, I took a bit of a deep dive into the evolution of physical education in Canada, and kind of reading the involvement of Canada on the physical education program, like beyond our country, makes me proud. But really, physical education had its roots in, military readiness in terms of how physical education was conducted in terms of like calisthenics and drill. And it was all about skill performance and a competitive outlook. Whereas now, what we're looking at is how can we tap into, yes, competitiveness and high performance, but also instilling opportunities to educate physical literacy and health literacy that is a bit more holistic and inclusive to all different backgrounds. So that was, it's always evolving and always ongoing, but that was the most recent piece that I took a deep dive into.
Very cool. And I feel like that's going to set the stage perfectly for our conversation today. Now, you did forget the hard part, and that's what's your affiliate as well.
Oh, CrossFit COBE.
Okay, there we go. My most recent book that's had an impact was I finally got around, and I do audiobooks on my drive into the gym, was The 4-Hour Work Week.
Okay.
A book that's fairly, 20 years old now, but I think very beneficial to a lot of affiliate owners who are probably doing the 80-hour work week. So highly recommend that. So as you just unpacked everything, like I said, I feel like you unintentionally set the stage of a lot of cool stuff we can talk about with you today. But I always like to start with, what is your CrossFit origin story? How did you get into it?
So this would have been in 2010. Actually, it's kind of interesting. Like today's my son's 15th birthday. And I remember 15 years ago, my husband came home from a meeting and he's like, "You're not going to believe this. There's this thing. It's called CrossFit. You can do a workout in 10 minutes. It's in a box, which is like an industrial building. And it's so cool." And the reason why I had some intel was my husband worked for Reebok Canada, and this was at the infancy of the partnership in 2010 with Reebok and CrossFit. And then I got pregnant with my second son, and so my first CrossFit experience doing a workout was when I was pregnant. It was down in Boston, and I remember I was doing wheelbarrow walks. I'm like, this is interesting. But you know what? We modified it. I was with, I think, 50 to 60 people out in the field down in Canton. And at the end, everyone was giving fist bumps. Everyone was doing the same thing, but not doing the same thing. And then from there, I was hooked. So obviously through my pregnancy, I modified my workouts. But my first real let's hit the ground running with CrossFit was when my second son was 2 months old, and the gym that I joined was CrossFit YUL in Montreal, and they started a CrossFit Moms program. And I'm so
Cool.
glad they did, because I was able to bring my son and we all did our workout, and I felt like myself. I wasn't ready to join like the real class. And so that was a great sort of introduction in a safe space that we're all kind of going through, mommyhood together. And then, the Mike and Jason that were running the show at the time brought all the moms into the regular classes as a great integration. And that is, I haven't stopped since. That would have been in December 2011.
That's so cool. And what I love about that is the aspect of like a mom and baby class where sometimes, we hear about different programs that gyms are offering, and part of the evolution of this podcast is to share those. But like, what's old is new again, and what sometimes when we're looking for the answers, we just have to look back at things people have already done, and mom and baby classes are still as irrelevant then as they are now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. We have one member here that had a young daughter in August, and she brings her daughter, and we set up a little mat on the side. And I'm envious of how good she is, because my kids were never that good when I was working out. But I think that's really key. Like, if gyms can somehow, encourage moms to come and find some accommodation that allows them to work out, whether they've got a separate designated area, or maybe, it's the kind of workout with, if their partner is with them, one can have, eyes on their child while the other one's working out. There's always a way.
Mm-hmm. So how long then after starting doing CrossFit more regularly at CrossFit YUL did you start coaching, and was it at that affiliate?
Okay, well, I had it in my head that I was not a coach.
Okay.
I even came from I was always a fitness enthusiast, but CrossFit was very new to me. But I definitely caught the bug and wanted to keep CrossFitting. So I guess through my journey of training the CrossFit methodology, my husband and myself and our family made a move away from Montreal to Milton, and we joined Reebok CrossFit Firepower in Milton.
Yeah. Cool.
And their community blew us away in terms of like welcoming us into open arms. And between the coaches that I saw at YUL and at Reebok CrossFit Firepower, I was so inspired. That wasn't what I was doing in my everyday life. Like, when I was in university, I was a personal trainer. And through my career, I was always working at a gym sort of on the side. But I never thought I would do that full time. It was always a side gig. And then somewhere along the lines, after I had my kids and I was traveling a lot, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I could, do this full time. And then I could have a bit more flexibility to stay at home and be with the kiddos, but also do what I've been doing part time, but full time.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started coaching kids. So that's where my CrossFit coaching started, was with kids. And I was like, let's go big. So I left my job. I started coaching kids. I opened up Firepower Kids, which was the kids section, an affiliate of Reebok CrossFit Firepower. Left my job and went full speed ahead. So I was coaching, owning the gym, doing all the things.
Wow. So then, and you are on staff. So did you, in joining staff, what came first, on the kids side or on the level 1 side, or how did that all work? How did that
Yeah.
opportunity come about?
Well, Matt, that's a good question, because my journey is a little unconventional in terms
Sure.
of like seminar staff, I think, in that because we had such a big and growing kids program at Firepower, we hosted so many kids seminars. So seminar staff were coming in all the time, like 2 to 3 times a year, to host CrossFit Kids seminars. That's where I took my CrossFit Kids seminar. And again, I'm so fortunate that I was surrounded by such inspirational people, that the instructors that came on seminar staff, I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to be like them someday. And deep down, I was like, I could never be as good as them. But I was like, I had this little thought that I want to be like them someday. And so it was years later. I think I took my kids' seminar in 2013.
Okay.
And then I remember in 2017 contacting HQ going like, I think I want to be a CrossFit Kids seminar staff. And they're like, well, you have to have a level 3. And I had my level 2, which I have another story on that one.
Okay.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm doing my level 3. So then I went like, nose to the books, watching all the videos, took the test, passed, and was like, okay, CrossFit HQ, got my level 3. Now what? And then like, okay, you have to go on internships. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And
Mhm.
so, and CrossFit Kids seminars aren't as frequent as the level 1. So I ended up going to New York. So I'm in Kingston now. We moved to Kingston from Milton. And I drove down to New York, did my CrossFit Kids seminar internship with John Gary. And he's invited me back for a second one. So then I went back for a second one. And I so remember, like, after that one, which I was so nervous for, he looked at me and he's like, I'd like to welcome you to seminar staff. And I just like started crying. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Like, I didn't think I could do this, but I just thought I'd try. And so anyway, long story short, I got on seminar staff with kids first. And
Okay.
so then my first actual official CrossFit Kids seminar was at Reebok CrossFit Firepower with kids that I had coached. And it was like a super awesome full circle moment.
That's so cool. And like even that whole journey, my professional background is actually broadcasting.
Mm,
And in college, radio is all about like taking opportunity. And as they say, like if you get asked to do something in radio, you say yes, and then you learn how to do it between then and when you have to start.
mm.
And it seems like that's what you've done. You're just like, I don't know, but yes. I don't know how to
Yeah.
do it, but yes. As
Oh my gosh.
opposed to maybe like, information, there was probably significantly less information available then, which maybe was a good thing in the sense of nowadays there's so much information that maybe folks are hesitant to start something or have a failure to launch because they're trying to ingest the right amount of info, or they compare themselves to others and talk themselves out of it. So how is just going willfully forward helpful in retrospect?
Yeah, I think for me, especially, like if I knew what was involved, I probably wouldn't have, because, it's intimidating and intense. But I think, putting yourself forward, hearing some harsh feedback, but
Mhm.
knowing that the whole intention is because there's potential and they see potential is what, keeps you going and putting yourself out there.
So you said you had a second story about the level 2.
Mm.
Let's get into that.
Yeah, so I did my level 1 at Reebok CrossFit YUL in, I think it was 2012.
Okay.
And then I remember a lot of coaches at Reebok CrossFit Firepower were getting their level 2, and they would come back and talk about after day 1. And I was like, oh my God, I never ever want to do that. Like, it just sounded like, and these are coaches that I had on a pedestal that like knew everything. And they
Yeah.
said that they were getting feedback that questioned their ability. And like this was in 2015, 2016, and the course has evolved so much since then. But then they would go back on the second day, take the feedback that the flow masters and the trainers were giving them and deliver. And they came out of it saying like they were such a better coach. Day 1, is supposed to kind of just, identify some areas to improve. And then day 2, they refine those and then, are ultimately successful. So I decided, okay, I'm going to give it a go. But at that point, I'd never coached adults. Like I'd only
Mm.
coached kids, and adults scared me. And I thought, oh my gosh, they're going to judge me. And again, after day 1, I had J Mac and Matt Dubrek. And I was such a nervous wreck. I could tell I was stumbling over my words. I was intimidated. I could tell like my body language was just not confident. And both of them, and I had it written in my book that they basically said, the points performance, deliver the points performance. And if you need to, like, pretend you're coaching your kids' class. And I'm like, I can do that. And they're like, yeah. So then I came back the next day. I think I was doing front squats. And I'm like, okay, here's my kids' class. And my points of performance was elbows up. And I had them, my small group, like line up, facing each other. And then they launched their like laser beams on the end of their elbows. And they had to, shoot their laser beams. And if they dropped, I made a noise. And I kind of felt silly, but I felt more confident doing that
Yeah.
at that time in my coaching career. And I'm really happy that J-Mac and Matt kind of gave me that, that grace to be able to add my own flair, because that's where my background was at that time. So then from level 2, then I eventually started dabbling in adults. I'm like, actually, they're not so scary. And you can teach them like they're kids.
It's often the best cue is the cue that works, right? And
Right.
and everyone, I mean, they behave like kids when you're trying to wrangle them, right? So
Oh yeah, worse sometimes, many times.
why not teach them like kids? So that's carried you into your, I don't want to call it full profession, side profession, but what else aside from being an affiliate owner and on seminar staff? Many might not know what else you do professionally. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I truly believe it's because of my journey with CrossFit that led me to what I think is my dream job. I am a phys ed teacher in Kingston at the Royal Military College of Canada. And so I get to teach all different types of, physical fitness to the young military members here in Kingston. And they're at the post-secondary level, and some have very little experience in physical education, and some have a lot. And so there's a huge spectrum that I get a chance to, try to instill a love of fitness, whatever that fitness is for them.
How did that opportunity come about for you?
Well, my husband and I were living in Milton for, I think at that time, 4 years, and
Okay.
I'm a Kingston townie, born and raised,
A river
and
rat, a certified river rat.
yeah, here I am. And so I thought maybe someday I'll make it back to Kingston. And my husband's family was in Montreal, Ottawa, Brockville, this area. And so we just started entertaining the idea of like what could get us back there. And we were looking for jobs for him. We were looking for jobs for me. And we got very fortunate that we both found jobs in Kingston. It was not an easy decision by any stretch because we had such a family at Reebok CrossFit Firepower and our business and our kids. We had built that program from 12 kids to 250 kids. Like it was not an easy decision to make. Those were hard days and a hard transition. We moved here. We're like, what did we do? We literally just blew up our life. But I don't have regrets now. Obviously, there's a lot of like, what if we never moved? But the opportunities that have come forth, like my job, my kids' experiences, and like what Firepower has grown into now, all happened for a reason.
Yeah. I would be remiss not to, you just glazed over that one stat that everyone's like, wait. From what, 12 kids to 250 kids?
Yeah.
What? Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, honestly, I think that there's a few things.
Sure.
The biggest thing is to have someone dedicated to a kids program versus a person that's like sometimes coaching adults, sometimes coaching kids, but to have a person that is the kids person, like that's like someone building the strategy, that's working through like marketing plans and business plans, that's handling all the admin, also the coaching and building teams. Like I think it's essential to have a person. We were also in a position that we had a whole separate space. So we weren't having to share floor space with adult programming, that we had basically an open schedule of what that could look like. Obviously, with kids, we're not looking at a similar schedule to the adults given school. But then over time, we were able to fill those spots with opportunities like homeschool families, school trips, younger demographics like daycares and preschools. So it eventually became a robust program that we could fill the days, and then summers were camps and workshops. So it we had opportunity based on like how we set up the business, people and space.
What I'm hearing is going all in breeds the invention. Like necessity is kind of the mother of invention in that regard. And I'm guessing you had to be creative, not in the sense that it maybe we know the word, but like just be creative and think, how can we get as many people doing this thing as possible in regards to the kids to have all those opportunities come up.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what you're saying, Matt. And I think also proximity to, what the adults are doing, we really work together. So when kids were coming in with their
Mhm.
parents for the kids program, then the adults would be like, oh, well, what's happening in next door? And then
Yeah.
vice versa, when adults were training and they would see kids moving, they're like, oh, I can bring my kids here to do the thing. So over time, like those built on each other. But then things like, and this wasn't me, like I was so lucky that I had some superstar younger um energetic and creative staff that were like, well, what about birthday parties? I'm like, I don't know if I can do it, but you can do it,
Yeah.
and let's work together to find out, what does a CrossFit Kids birthday party look like? And then that then turned into an interesting opportunity, because then you get a whole other group that hadn't even heard of CrossFit Kids or hadn't heard of, Reebok CrossFit Firepower. And they're coming in during the birthday party, seeing what's going on. And then those kids that were at that birthday party wanted to have their birthday party there. So then that just kind of grew. So these just little things that just kept happening and sprinkling over the years just helped that program grow to the numbers that we had.
And it'd be interesting without getting too into the nitty gritty, but I wonder if a misconception folks might have about a kids program is that it should be heavily discounted. But I
Mm.
think with any effective business and CrossFit business, you do have to charge the value that you're providing, and a CrossFit Kids program would be no different.
I second that. Our on seminar staff, when we get asked this question across the globe,
Yeah.
we can't say what you're going to set your prices at. That's not our job. It's not our business to tell you how to run your business. But what we can recommend, and this is me, Jackie, previous kids gym owner, but also seminar staff for kids, is like, just look around at what other kids programs are charging. There's gymnastics clubs and hockey clubs, there's recreation programs, there's competitive programs. Like, find something that maybe is on par to these other kids programs. You don't necessarily have to compare it to like the adult prices here, therefore kids is half, because kids coaches are experienced, credentialed, and providing really good quality coaching. And we aren't a drop-in babysitting service. So making
Right.
sure that we offer that value and offering the price that equates to it. And it wasn't like we did discount right at the gate. We're like, oh yeah, it should be 50% off. And then we struggled to pay our staff. We struggled to buy like fun equipment for the gym. And we're like, ugh, we have to change this. And this is going to be really hard. And I remember when we did our first price increase, it felt yucky because it was
Yeah.
kids, but we did it, and there was some pushback, but very little in hindsight. And it was because, you know what, we want to continue to educate our trainers, provide like a safe and fun and quality gym, and that's where this money was going. um, and so then we dabbled between session based program and like regular recurring memberships, and we had both. So we had some sessions and some recurring that helped the profit and loss books.
So what I'm hearing then is you tried something, assessed it, reassessed, tried something new, compared, assessed, reassessed. And again, back to that willingness to just try and experiment and fail forward in
Mm,
a way. Is like, if something doesn't work, like, let's just have an objective measurable to say, like, what is and isn't working and how can we manage and improve on it.
you got it. There was a lot of things that didn't work, and things that we then had to refine and like sort of repurpose in terms of how we presented it. And some stuff just gone. We're just got to move on in terms of that not working.
So, in switching over back to then at the Royal Military College,
hmm
are you teaching the CrossFit principles, fundamentals, all that aspect in your day-to-day programming with that
hmm
group?
So, because I got on, I was able to teach the CrossFit methodology. At first, we kept it very general,
Yeah.
strength and conditioning based, intro to. But then there was a growing interest of those that wanted to really understand what CrossFit was. Now, there are some restrictions in terms of how I can deliver my curriculum,
Mhm.
and specifically second year. The learning outcomes for second year is ultimately on a sports level. So we want to look at like some of the learning outcomes of team sports. So working together, strategic planning, um, losing with dignity, but also learning skills and putting those skills into play. And so we have court sports and field sports and racket sports and water sports. But then here we go, we have, CrossFit that is a sport. And so when I teach it, I get to teach the skills of what CrossFit, has, but then
Mhm.
how do you put it into play with a sport, which means the workouts are either in partners, in teams of 3, in teams of 4. And then they also have the opportunity to dabble into the world of judging, and counting and looking at what movement is supposed to look like and correcting it. It's been growing in interest over the years, and it's really exciting. And now that we're here in the open, yeah, just they all want to do the open now too, which is great.
That's so cool. And so, in that, those learning outcomes in
hmm
year 2 into sport, is that curriculum relative to developing athletes, or is it to learn through sport the fun? And this is an honest, true question, like
Yeah.
fundamentals, that is because military is very hierarchy, order, working together, right? All those things is.
Mhm.
So, are the learning outcomes relative to the military side of things?
It's a bit of both. Like, really, the
Okay.
ultimate goal with our students at RMC is to cultivate opportunities for them to be physically active in their careers and then beyond their careers. So,
Okay.
and we're getting a population that have either no experience or a lot of experience. So this is just introducing them to an opportunity that they could, when they're not with us anymore, train safely, either on their own in the gym, or maybe CrossFit becomes their thing. Like they want to compete on a recreational level, either again when they're graduated and they're deployed somewhere, or in their later years, that it's an option. And it's the same with, when they play basketball, they can play pickup with some of their fellow military members when they're, posted somewhere. And it's to help in terms of decompression and
Mhm.
stress release, but also to ensure that we are providing fun and different opportunities for different people. Like, not everyone loves basketball, not everyone loves racket sports, maybe not everyone loves CrossFit. So we provide all these choices. So like, oh, I didn't realize I actually did, love CrossFit, or I'm actually good at it, or something I want to do. And then they can pursue it afterwards.
Cool.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, it does, because and tie back to how you started off with, and like, this is a full tangent, but
Mhm,
we're gonna run with it, because I feel very strongly, even though I keep it to myself, that the idea of not giving winners or losers is doing kids a disservice. Not for the aspect of winning and losing, but to be gracious in winning, be gracious in losing. You deprive a coach an opportunity to connect with their people. And sport in youth is becoming an activity
mhm,
rather than a development tool. And because play-based learning is massive for like what what are the age? It's like 6 to 9 or something, isn't it? Or
Yeah. I mean, you're right, and it's going to be an ongoing discussion, and everyone has their right to their opinions.
Mhm.
And I live it every day. I've got two boys. One is super competitive, and the other one is like it. He's quite turned off by competition unless he's skilled and good at it,
Right.
as we all are. Um, I think there's a time and a place for it. I think in the younger years, and we go through this in CrossFit Kids, we want to keep things inclusive and for fun, and everyone starts and finishes together, and we're celebrating effort. But then we get to a certain age where you do want to introduce competition so we can instill those skills of like losing with dignity and grace, but
Mhm.
also firing up someone's inspiration to like work harder because they do want to win. And then teaching
Yeah.
someone how to win with dignity and grace is also an important skill. So yes, I think in our gyms we can do that with our kids programs, but we can also do it with our adult programs, and we're doing it now during the open. Beat your score. If you find that there's someone on the leaderboard you want to beat, like how can you push yourself? But if you don't beat that person, like it doesn't mean you can go and be a dum dum and
Yeah.
just like, like chalk it up and try harder on next week and see if you can get them on the next week.
Yeah, there's way more opportunities to learn. And as we know, like how you do anything is how you do everything. And
Hmm.
so to be able to practice that a little bit more is huge. And so how has, as you've pursuing your master's now,
Mm.
you mentioned, it was before it was more of a physical readiness tool as opposed to now kind of how do you notice health and promotion at a youth has changed, and is there an opportunity to turn the tides a little?
Well, I think the biggest thing is their kids and adults, like think about yourself, are
Mm,
interested in different things. Like, I mean, you and I live in a bit of a CrossFit bubble, and so we
yeah,
think everyone loves CrossFit. Um, but people don't know that they might actually love it, and same with kids, like they just don't know. And so life used to be is you would do multi sports, like you would get
right.
basketball and volleyball, and you'd play and you'd go skating and you do track. Like it was very structured in that sense. But now there's dance and there's yoga and there's outdoor education and there's aquatics, and then there's CrossFit is blowing up in schools because kids are finding, oh, I actually do like to be active, and it's okay that I don't want to play hockey. I know we're in
Mm.
Canada, but it's okay. And so many do love hockey. So let's continue to provide opportunities for those to play hockey, but also provide opportunities to those who don't want to play hockey, but love, you know, um, lifting weights or running or hanging from a bar.
Or
Um,
sorry to cut you off, but also the idea of team sports, but
mm,
being able to compete or well, just participate as an individual
yeah.
is probably less pressure on these kids as well.
You're right. Like so many kids get really nervous about being on a team and, disappointing. Well, there's a lot of value in, trying to encourage team sport. Eventually they might realize, you know what, an individual sport is for me, and that's what they want to do, or vice versa. They've been doing individual stuff and now they want to be a part of a team. And we can cultivate those opportunities as well. And schools are doing it. And that's where the shift is changing, is just providing a variety of activities.
Yeah, and and that's where like I get so fired up and excited about like a kids. We don't have a kids program because
Mhm.
we don't have the space. So sorry,
Yeah.
we offer it twice a week, but I'm always like, the more
Yeah.
people we can get doing it, the better. And
Yeah.
that's CrossFit in general. But I guess I mean by that is like when you look at it just in the lens of like something for our members' kids
Mm.
to occupy the time,
Yeah.
I feel like it'll always stay there. But no different than if you look at CrossFit as a methodology of just doing CrossFit workouts,
Yeah.
right? Like doing CrossFit versus understanding CrossFit.
Yeah.
And when you understand it and use it as a tool, its applications become infinite.
Oh, absolutely. And I think like our job is to continue to educate people on like what is CrossFit. I have like two specific examples, one at RMC and one at my gym. I have a member, I love her, and she was so forthcoming with the fact that she thought that she had to audition to join a CrossFit gym. I'm like, where in the world did you
Yeah.
hear this? Like, I mean, again, I'm in this little bubble. And she's like, yeah, I saw, stuff online and I thought I couldn't do it. And you had to audition to be a member. I'm like, and now that she's here, like she realizes that is the last thing from the truth that anyone can do. My mother-in-law who lives with us here,
Yep.
she's 82. My kids that are, 15 today and 13 and everything in between. But, again, as you know, we can just modify it. We have a group, at RMC. It's called ILOI. It's for the Indigenous Leadership Opportunity Year.
Yep.
So our role with them as physical educators is to give them this variety I was telling you about, where they get 2 weeks of this and 2 weeks of that and 2 weeks of this, so they can understand, like, look at all these opportunities to be physically active. Well, they knew, like, Ms. Jackie Clark was coming with CrossFit, and they were all like, can we do volleyball? And I'm like, why do you want to do volleyball? They're like, we love it. I'm like, well, do you want to not do CrossFit because you don't want to do CrossFit and you want to do volleyball, or is it because you've never done it and you think you don't want to do it? I'm like, we don't want to do it. We've never done it. I'm like, well, you can't say you don't want to do it. So we did CrossFit, a CrossFit workout last week. And I said at the end, we'll have a vote. If you want to do volleyball next week, we can do volleyball, or we can do CrossFit. I said, okay, let's have a vote. And I didn't even finish like saying my sentence. Like, no, we'll do CrossFit. We want to do CrossFit. And they said to me, like, that was really hard in the moment, but I love it now that it's over. I'm like, that's awesome. Like, little win. So we're going to do CrossFit again. And I hope they continue.
That's so awesome. Yeah, it's I think we get too caught up as affiliate owners and coaches in because everyone talks about systems. You need systems and structures, and we know those to be true. But like, if you only ever do a 3-session onboarding, or you only do a CrossFit beginner, then you're really like narrowing your scope about giving people an opportunity to get in through that door.
Yeah.
As opposed to what you've experienced on the kid side is like, just experiment with giving people samples of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. And that's it, right? Because they just don't know what they don't know. And once you experience it, as you know, experiencing it is so different than seeing it, which is so different from someone telling you what it is. And we all learn in different ways and we understand in different ways. And if they can experience that emotion of, oh, I thought it was going to be so hard, but I did it, that's when they come in. And then that's our job to make sure that whatever it is that they're doing, they feel successful, but also, challenging them appropriately.
So speaking of challenge, for people who are able to watch this, I believe what you were sitting on used to be a basketball court. What, 2 years ago? Is that right?
So I have a basketball. There's a basketball court just outside
Okay,
our
so it's still
door.
there. Okay.
Yeah, we've evolved here a bit. So what I'm sitting in right now was a garage for tractors and trucks and farm equipment. So it's a farm size garage that we converted into a CrossFit gym. And then beside our barn, excuse me, we built a almost full size basketball court. So it's regulation size width, just short in terms of length for our COBE basketball program.
And that was my reason for bringing up is, where did that itch come from to open an affiliate? Because how long has it been open now?
Well, we started when we moved to Kingston, and so we, had to say our goodbyes to Firepower Kids. We didn't have a gym here, and there was months and this was during the pandemic, and we were like, like it'd be nice to have a gym again, but what does that look like? We have our full-time jobs, and so we started at our other house. We had an outdoor gym, so we had a little basketball court, we had an outdoor rig. We just kind of did classes with my neighbors and friends outside. and it was starting to gain momentum, but it was very seasonal. Like I'm pretty tough, but I'm not going to do CrossFit outside all winter. So we started like with this idea that I wonder if we could open a CrossFit gym someday. And we started looking at spaces in town, but we're like, what are we doing? Like, we've got kids now in rep basketball, we've got jobs, like we can't, this is crazy. And then I don't know how, but we were looking at the real estate, and we came across this property that we could live here and have a gym on the property and have a basketball court. And, we've got a little bit of flexibility with the schedule. So, so we again blew up our life and moved here and built this program. So we opened, it used to be CrossFit River Tower at our other location. So that was affiliated in July 2020. And then when we moved here, we changed the name to CrossFit COBE, and that has been since October 2023. So only about a year and a half or so here.
And what's your kind of scheduling programming look like there?
So we offer 6 a.m. classes throughout the week.
Okay.
3 noon classes, and then evening classes, like 5:15 class Monday through Thursday. And then we've got a Saturday class. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely attracting a certain crowd that can work with that schedule. We're on the East End, not too far out of the city, so it's still commutable. But it's a unique space. So I like to think that it's not, a big industrial box. We are about just shy of 1,200 square feet.
Okay.
And I've had class sizes of 14 to 16. You have to get very creative. Obviously in the summer, like we have an outdoor workout space as well. In the summer, it's a lot easier, but in the winter, we got to get creative. But I think the sweet spot for us is about 8 people, which is great.
And, Doobie talked about that when he was on, and, you work with him on seminars and whatnot. But, when he went from a 10,000 square foot affiliate down to an 800 square foot affiliate, it's almost like this, like more members growing. But the beauty of the program and the business methodology being open source is you can find it and mold it to your sweet spot. And I mean the application of it versus the methodology.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do follow CAP programming for the most part. But I mean, there's days where like we either
We had
can't.
Nancy yesterday, so
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we did Nancy yesterday too. And I had people doing a redo on the open. So I'm like, okay, Nancy and the open redo. So wow, that really definitely put us to the test. Probably same as you. We ended up doing cycling Nancy. So and the reason why we did cycling is because we could put all the bikes under the rig. And they could do their cycle under here, and then their overhead squats were just beside that. And then the other, like 2 lanes was for the redo. So, but you're right. You can do it. You absolutely can do it, but it just takes a little extra step of logistical planning in terms of where people are going to be, how equipment's going to go, and how the flow is going to go.
We did assault bikes and then synchronized overhead squats.
Oh, that's
So
tough, but I like it a lot.
the little spice, right? And I think it's worth kind of nerding out over that stuff, because I think many affiliates may be nervous to change a workout, especially a benchmark workout like Nancy. But realizing it's not about executing the workout, it's delivering the stimulus in some way, shape, or form of what that workout's supposed to feel like. And there is room for creativity with that.
Yes, I agree. Yep, and the creativity can come in the workout, and it can come in the warm up, and the movement prep. So I love that. I love that part about taking something like a benchmark, but being able to customize it to what your affiliate might need based either on the space or the population that you're working with.
And so as you also, how often are you getting out to do, because are the kids seminars in person again, or
No.
they're still online? And
Yeah, so they're online. So they're all webinars, and in actual fact, they're great. And
hmm,
I hate to say it, but the kind of better in a way. And the reason why I'll preface by saying, because it's so global now, when
yeah,
I have a webinar of 30 to 40 participants, we've got China and Australia and Germany and the US and Canada and like worldwide. So we get an amazing global perspective in these webinars. Of course, like you lose the in-person connection piece. But I think since the pandemic, this course has been refined and improved over and over and over again, that it's an incredible opportunity to learn in that space. So those are online. Level one, so I got on level one staff in 2020,
mhm.
and we were sort of the Canadian crew before we traveled across the borders. But now there's travel again, and those are now online and in person, but mostly in person.
And so how often are you getting to get back out on the road again?
I'm myself taking a step back only
Okay.
because of my master's program. Um, and then I hope to get back on the road. So I was doing level ones about one every 3 to 4 months. And same with kids, one to two every 3 to 4 months. And so once things wrap up with schooling, I'll have a little bit more extra time to be able to get back on the road.
Do you have a plan for the masters? I
Mm,
mean, I feel like not necessarily like someone needs to have a plan to
yeah.
pursue more education, but what inspired that, and where is it taking you?
Um, Well, I have to be honest. I don't know if how vulnerable I should be here.
Sure.
Um, so, a couple things. What inspired me to do my master's I started, I guess, at age 43, and I'm about to turn 47 this year. So it's taken me a little while. You know what? To be truthful, my undergrad 20 years ago, I have a Bachelor of Commerce, and I
Okay.
pursued business. That was my career path. And again, this health and fitness thing was always supposed to just be a thing on the side. And then obviously it's become my profession, and I'm surrounded by like super educated, smart individuals. And I guess a little part of me felt quite insecure because I'm like, I've got a business degree and I've lived in this space for 2 decades, but I felt like even though I've had lots of credentials through CrossFit and other organizations, I just for me felt like I wanted something in that, higher education. So they accepted my application. And here I
Cool.
am, 3.5 years later, almost completing my master's in human kinetics and recreation. And so that was part of it, was for me just to feel a little bit more you know, legit in my profession. But through this journey, I realized a lot of stuff we already learn and know through a lot of the CrossFit programming and courses, but also um, I feel like I can offer a bit more of a holistic perspective versus sort of the little bubble that I had been in terms of my own journey. What am I
Mhm.
going to do with it now? I question that. I'm like, I don't want this like 3.5 years to be all for nothing. I think through it, I've been able to apply it when I'm coaching on the floor, coaching at my job, with my own kids. But I also feel like there's something in me that wants to do something with it. I don't know what that
Sure.
is yet, but something, whether it's like writing a blog, writing a book. I don't love the whole like video social media thing, so I don't know if I'm going to go that way. I don't know. There's so much that I've learned that I'd love to share, to figure out how to kind of formulate what's the best medium to deliver some of these sort of key highlights that I've learned.
And Jocelyn has been on the podcast. She just finished her master's in
Mhm.
nutrition, and I hope I don't misrepresent that either. And what is cool about it that I think many will find inspiring is just the pursuit of curiosity and being curious about something else,
Mhm.
and also realizing there are so many. You look at yourself as became a coach, opened a thriving kids program, but then had the willingness to move, but then get on staff for both kids and level one, but then still try new things. And maybe there's people listening that are nervous to go all in on CrossFit in some way, shape, or form, but realizing it's not necessarily a destination that you get to. It's just like fitness in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely a journey, and everyone's journey is different.
Mhm.
And I think there's value in, getting inspired by a story. I mean, that's same with me. I would see people, whether it was coaches or seminar staff, and they would inspire me, and then I had to follow my own journey and not their journey. And so it's like taking the story, but following the path that makes sense for you. And I think that's the same, and even just being a coach in your affiliate.
Mhm.
I learned the hard way. Like I would watch all these amazing coaches. I'm like, okay, I'm going to coach like that person. I'm going to be like that person. I'm going to do that like that person. But then it wasn't authentic. And then I had to find the way I delivered it. But I can take some clear like best practices, but then find my way. And then that authenticity came through. And that's where there was a more, solid connection with my members or with my kids or whoever my audience was in my class.
Yeah, the value can be in taking a class is to steal something from another coach, but you take it and you have to put it through your filter first and
Right.
make it, you don't have to make it yours, but say, okay, what do I understand about this piece and how can I
Yeah.
use it to help me objectively apply it to my classes?
Yeah, and I think we do it as affiliate owners. We were chatting about the open,
Yeah.
how we can see what other gyms are doing in terms of like cultivating that spirit of the open, but then you got to think about how will it best be served to your community. And you and I were talking about like how we went from having teams
Yeah.
to just having like different themes and having spirit, because that's what's working for our gym. So we don't have to follow a certain way that others are doing it. It's working for them, but it's going to work differently for us based on like what we were taking from them, but what works best for our community.
Yeah, it seems like sometimes folks can get so caught up in the process of the thing rather than the
Mm,
application or objective
right.
of the piece, right? Is
Yeah, like what is the goal?
yeah, the
Yeah.
open is a test of fitness, but in its application is a means of celebrating affiliates and all the magic that happens and pushing each other and whatnot. So how have you guys noticed the spirit of the open been at your affiliate? Even though probably when this gets released, it'll be in April, but
Yeah.
still,
Yeah.
people will be able to, in retrospect, see it.
Yeah.
Or
To think back, right? Well,
yeah,
I mean, so we are recording, just coming off of week 1. And it has this year we went to spirit weeks or theme weeks instead of teams, and it was a huge hit. There was a comment that we didn't realize how much colorful neon apparel people owned in this community, because usually when they come into the gym they're wearing like blacks and browns
yeah.
and grays and blues. But it was good. And so we had a best dressed award, and the person that I really did not expect to really go all out went all out. And so we had a best dressed award. At the end of the 3 weeks, we're going to do a spirit of the game. So there's voting after every week. So they're voting for who, had the most spirit. And that wasn't just about how they dressed, but how they presented themselves, whether they were an athlete participating,
Mhm.
judging, cheering, helping, supporting. And then we're going to have an Iron Will Award where, if someone participates in all 3 workouts, then they'll get entered into a draw for some prizing. So that's the approach we're taking this year versus getting points for teams and scores and all the rest of it.
Yeah, we were talking about the minimum effective dose, and
Mm-hmm.
many will either be excited about the open or dread it. And like I said, is maybe folks listening now are decompressing from it, but it's like a cue in a way. Is I'm going to give someone a cue, but then I'm responsible for stopping and making sure that that cue worked.
Mm,
And in a point of we know by the points of performance that we can objectively measure if that thing worked.
mm-hmm.
And then also realizing, could that cue be even more efficient? And the open is the same way. If we have an objective measurement that we're trying to achieve, with our community, then we just look back and say, did it work and can it be done more efficiently?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's really key, is to always look back and just see if you can fine tune and improve and see what maybe is working well and what didn't work well. So how did it work for you on your week 1?
It worked great.
Yeah.
We we were chatting before we got started, is everyone did such a great job of judging each other, you know, and we don't make a big deal about getting everyone nervous about either judging or being judged. We just say, hey, we hold the standards and this is what we're after. But when you make it less about the open or the workout or CrossFit, is you give people the opportunity to celebrate each other. And you know, this workout was so beautifully elegant for that.
Yeah.
To see how many people were able to check that RX box.
Yeah.
And, you know, we had to coach people to say, you know, because, well, is it better to go scaled and get a better workout? We're like, no, this is the opportunity to check that box and find out about yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's great. I agree with you. It was quite well programmed for the first week. Do you remember your first open workout?
Yes, my journey was, my first ever CrossFit workout was 12.1.
7 minutes of burpees.
7 minutes of burpees. Yep, my first ever, and I mean, and it's so, you know, 13 years later.
Yeah.
But it was Bring a Friend February, and it was a classic, like a coworker's like, hey, I've been doing this thing CrossFit. I'm gonna go at lunch tomorrow. Do you want to come? And they're like, yeah. And then get in there and they're like, the owners, hey, the open started. Today's the first day. This is your workout. You should sign up for the open. I don't know what it is, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you just, it like that statement of, I don't know what it is, but yes.
Yeah.
As opposed to now we're so inundated with information,
Yeah,
where people want more information before they make a decision, and you miss out on the opportunity to just say, screw it and go for it.
Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, the fact that you came back after 7 minutes of burpees is remarkable.
I didn't complete, and you know, in another classic CrossFit story, if you remember what 12.2 was.
So was that the snatches or?
Yeah, 30 snatches, 30 snatches, 30 snatches.
Yeah.
I did not complete that workout because not even attempting it, because I was intimidated by the person warming up for that workout.
Yeah.
You know, had the lifters on. This was back in the gyms when the affiliates would have like a section of lifting platforms.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, and so its feet were slamming down on the wood floor, and I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do that. So I didn't throw the baby out with the bathwater, but I didn't complete the rest of the open that year.
It's really interesting hearing you say that, because, you know, these things that we create in our head, you think only you feel it. And I'm like, Matt, like, you're like this superstar CrossFitter who's been around forever. And I was like, I actually remember that workout too, having very similar feelings to you. And I do remember trying it. I think it was for a female. It was like, I think it might have been 65 pounds was the first weight. And then the second weight was like 85 or 95. And how YUL had it. And it was like a 20,000 square foot gym. There was a strip down the middle where it was like a ladder, right? Like, you've got these bars, and then if you make it, you go to these bars and you go to these bars. And so we just kind of were staggered. And Stephanie Waugh, she was at that gym. And so she was ahead of me, and we had kind of started CrossFit around the same time. And she was like way fitter than me. And she was like flying through these snatches, and I couldn't even lift the second bar off the ground. And I actually remember crying, either in disappointment, in embarrassment, in frustration. Like, it was a whole bunch of things. I'm like, why the heck am I crying right now? I couldn't figure it out. And I remember her, like, who was, you know, again, I've got her on a pedestal. She was like a rock star. She gave me some words of encouragement in terms of, like, just, you know, this is a really technical movement. You just got to keep practicing. And I can't believe that I didn't quit in the moment. But I remember coming back and working on snatch, and obviously now 13 years later, I've never redone that workout. And I think I would love to, just to kind of know, hey, this is a journey. And remember, like with people who feel like they can't ever do a pull-up, there's going to be a day that you're going to get a pull-up. There's going to be a day that you can get a rope climb. There's going to be a day that you can lift the weight that you can't do today. If you actually are interested in pushing it and trying it and learning the skill and being consistent in your training, it'll happen.
And I always tell people, especially we've had a lot of first-time signups this year, is it's not who you are this year, it's who you'll be the next year and the next year and the next year, to give yourself that opportunity to look back from there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if people wanted to reach out to you to find out how they can build a 250 kid program, where can they find you?
Well, I am on the social media space. So my Instagram is Jackie_C_Clark. But also through my website, CrossFitCobe.com.
And that's COBE with a C for those
COBE with a C.
For those who are listening.
Yep. COBE with a C. Yeah.
And on that note, 3, 2, 1, time.